You are live.
Good afternoon and welcome on this afternoon's Sunset Safari. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm actually going to stop the car because if I try and do this and track at the same time, we're going to miss something. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have Gert, also known as Carrot, on camera with me. I'm not sure how he feels about that nickname, but he's shaking his head at me. But nevertheless, that is the way things seem to be going. We are coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. Not only are we live, but we're also interactive, which means you can send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Brent is also out and about with Genre. I don't actually know what his plans are. He's gone off somewhere that way, the sort of easterly direction. I'm in the western corner of Djuma, the southwestern corner to be exact. And the reason I am concentrating so hard right now is we had a really exciting moment at the end of the sunrise safari this morning. Now, Herbert was hard at work helping us track down things this morning. He drove along this road, he came back 15 minutes later, and there were fresh leopard tracks. He thinks of Shadow and her cub. So Shadow, the daughter of the famous Queen Karula of Djuma, who shares her boundary with her mum, and who has a 4-month-old leopard cub with her. Now, we're concentrating really hard this afternoon. First of all, we're going to make sure that she hasn't come out of this area, and once we've done that, then I think I'm going to go for a little stroll into one of Shadow's favorite spots and see if she doesn't have a kill hidden somewhere in here. So bear with me while I keep glancing off to the side. This is a main road. She has picked sort of a spot where lots and lots of things happen. Lots of vehicles come past, so I need to concentrate nice and carefully on making sure that she hasn't popped out. But luckily for me and for you, it seems as though Brent has gone off to a very special spot. Let's go across and see what marvelous surprise he has for you.
Welcome to the Sunset Safari, and we are at the Nkahuma Den, and Mom is here. Isn't that great news? We can't see any of the cubs, we just see a very relaxed looking Mom at the moment. Oh, rolling over. Watch out you don't squash your babies. Now we're going to be playing the patience game this Sunset Safari, and I think as it gets cooler there's a good chance she might play with the cubs, or they might move out into the open. And now because Mom's here, we're able to stay. Oh, back to sleep, Mom. I wonder if she dislodged any cubs in that movement. Not that we can see, but I'm sure they're around there somewhere. Probably snuggled very close to her. And I am, of course, Brent, and I have Genre on camera. And we are very excited to bring you Saturday Cub Day, hopefully. We're going to sit here and play the patience game with the little ones. And hopefully Jamie is able to find Shadow and her little one. Now, I'm surprised we haven't seen a little flicker of movement from one of the cubs. Now that Mom's rolled over, they might squirm out to try and get a drink. Now, if you or I had to lie in that particular thicket, we would be completely ripped apart by that fallen knobthorn's thorns. That shows you how tough these creatures are, able to withstand all those thorns and actually look quite comfortable while doing it. So you see a little flicking of Mom's ear. Still no sign of the little ones. I'm very confident they're there. Probably just hidden behind her body at the moment. I think the first sight we're going to see of them is going to be around the center of her body there, as they might wake up and get a bit thirsty and head, there we go, for that area Genre is zooming in on. Oh, you can see all the flies on her. Most of those are probably going to be stable flies, those very irritating little biting flies that cover a lot of our wildlife here in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. Now, we're at the moment on the northeastern corner of Djuma. And remember, this is a live African safari. And also, you can ask me any questions you would like by using the email address, questions@wildearth.tv. Oh, she's getting irritated with the flies. That's a flick of that tail. Or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Now, as those cubs grow, that tail is going to become quite an important thing. And it is one of a lion cub's favorite toys. It's always moving slightly, so a great thing to practice pouncing upon and biting. Oh, I think that's flies biting her at the moment that's making her jump like that. I'm just trying to scan very carefully, see if I don't pick up any movements of the cubs. Now, this is the first time that I've been here, and I think also Jeanre's been here, that Mom's actually been here. Normally we just stay a couple of seconds and then we move out. But now with Mom's here, we're going to have the opportunity, sorry, the sun is right in my eyes, it's right behind us here. We're going to have the opportunity to spend a bit longer here and hopefully get some incredible shots of those gorgeous little Nkahuma babies. Sorry, I can't stare at the sun too much longer without going blind. Jeanre, of course, is going to keep the camera on me. He thinks he's very funny. Look at the lion, Jeanre. Well, I'm looking at my monitor now, Jeanre, so yeah. Now, it is still quite warm, and on this beautiful winter's evening, and I think as it gets cooler, Mom might move out into the open, and I'm hoping she brings the cubs with her onto the open of the termite mound. And hopefully we'll get a sight of them playing. Is that a cub there, Jeanre? Is that a paw? So we're just trying to spot. It looks like a paw. Every now and then I think I hear a little ow. Red Dog is wondering, do lions ever roll in mud for fly protection? Jeanre is trying to make me stare at the sun again. I'm going to stare to see if I can see that little cubs. No, they don't. Generally, they'll rely on those twitches in the skin, those sort of nervous reactions. Well, not nervous reactions, nerve reactions. That send a little shimmer, almost like a twitch through the skin to try to dislodge flies. Also flick their ears, swing their tails. And in certain areas, when the flies get really, really bad, they'll often climb up into a tree. And so lions can climb trees. They're just not as good at it as leopards are. And where there's a slight more of a breeze to protect them from the flies. So she'll be lying very close, as I said, to those little ones. I'm sure that just our view of them is being stopped by her body. So I heard right at the end of the sunrise safari that she had come back and someone had spotted her walking back in this direction. So this was always where I was going to head today, and I'm hoping to get some wonderful views of those little cubs with the mom. Now, she probably gave birth in this area, and when those cubs are as small as they are, she's probably not going to move them unless I sort of there's some outside circumstances that might cause her to move them, movement of male lions or hyenas close by, and that she'll probably leave them sometimes for up to 3 weeks in the initial den before moving them to another den. Generally the den won't be too far, and she's quite lucky. There's a myriad of these little dongas, as we call them in South Africa. Now a donga is a sort of like a little dry creek or erosion gully, but they are natural, and this is one here that we're on. And you can see water would flow right down in the bottom of that. Now this actually flows all the way to Buffelshoek Dam. So I just need to be on the radio for a second. Afternoon, there's a large slumby of Ndlov around or heading north from Vuyatela, and one station with one Satyangala at the den site off Buffelshoek cut line. 1 out of 5 visual and no visual of the cubs. Come on, Mom, move so we can see the babies. Now, as Genre scans, just look carefully. You might pick up a little bit of movement that we haven't seen before. And it's Mom's ear. Maybe beyond Mom or in the foreground to Mom. Apart from the occasional flick of a tail and movement from the biting flies, Mom looks quite relaxed. Now, while we wait, we could always do a tree quiz, since we're sitting next to so many trees. Genre, which tree should we do? What
about the dead one?
The dead one. Questions lactating. So we've only found 2 of the litters, so there could still be, there is still a third. We're not sure how many or where she's denning at the moment. So it could be very exciting that we're going to have 3 different sets of Inkahuma cubs. So this is indeed the one that James found. The other group of lion cubs is currently in Buffelshoek from the last tracks I saw of them. Was crossing into our boundary, probably about 3 k's from here. So they are unfortunately not currently on Djuma at the moment. These are 2 very young knob thorns, or Acacia nigrescens. Now, it seems like Jamie has been walking after leopards, and she's back on the car. So let's go see if she's had any success.
I have indeed been walking after leopards, and unfortunately the only thing I found was one very startled steenbok and a couple of very unhappy waxbills, blue waxbills to be precise, little fluttering birds that kept me company whilst I went searching for shadow. I'm afraid no good news to tell you just yet, but the afternoon is yet young, and we're still making sure that we scour the area to make sure that she hasn't popped out. The biggest difficulty in this particular patch is that it's an absolutely enormous section of bush. I say enormous as if, you know, it's incomparable. It's not 100% true, but for our region, it's one of the biggest areas without roads. which means she could be hiding absolutely anywhere. Strychnos, all the way through, over parts where I could see her tracks. I think that perhaps she has been chased a little bit further into the block. Hey boy, you've made life very difficult. Totally hidden away. I think he's going to move out into the open for us, so we'll be able to have a slightly better look. So a youngish male, just judging by his size, I would say maybe about 5 or so years spent living away from the safety of his herd and all on his own. So at this point he's relatively comfortable with his own size.
Oh, hi, Mitch. Mitch is in New York and he's wondering why aren't the furry animals here. Oh, sorry, this is very, very noisy on the Game Drive radio today. I'm turning it off. There we go. Done. Mitch, you have my undivided attention. So, Mitch is wondering why the furry animals here aren't completely inundated with fleas. Mitch, they are. But they're just used to it, and especially the denning animals like hyenas, wild dogs, even warthog, they all get complete infestations of fleas, and that causes them to use different hideouts or different den sites from time to time. That's why hyenas are constantly on the move, is because of fleas. Most of the animals here that have got fur, and predators in particular, will have fleas, and it's just one of those things about being out in the bush, and they don't have anyone to put a flea collar on them, although I think Jean-Andre might want to try with this lioness. Jean-Andre? No? Okay, Jean-Andre doesn't want to try put a flea collar. I certainly don't. So I think we'll leave it at that. That they do have fleas, but unfortunately for them, there's very little they can do about it apart from scratch the itch. Now, Jonathan's saying, often hear about animals dying because predators catch them, but are there any diseases that might kill animals earlier? There's a whole host of diseases, but even then, the predators will eat those animals once they're dead. That's how things work out here. And you'll find a lot of the predators are immune to lots of nasty things that would probably be quite bad if you were an impala. Because they're able to eat carrion, rotting meat, botulism, all that type of stuff, they're actually quite immune to. And as soon as an animal starts getting affected by a disease, it becomes slower and weaker, and that's when the predators pick them off. So it's a bit of a combo in that case, that they don't really manage to get away too easily, even if they are feeling a bit under the weather from a disease. The lion or the leopard or the hyena or wild dog, cheetah, will take advantage of that. Come on, little guys, get hungry. Now, lions are very interesting because they're quite unique in the big cat family. They are the only social predator, or only social big cat. Now, Brock was wondering whether they are the only of the cats that are social. And Brock, there are no other truly social cats throughout the world. And it's probably because of their evolution and where they've evolved in a very highly competitive area, the African savannah, where there were other social predators like human beings and hyenas to compete with. And it's a very, very interesting thing if you look back at the history of lions and the way lions react to people and to hyenas and different other predators in their ecosystem. During the day, lions will run off from a human being, 99% of the time, we're the dominant diurnal predator. And a group of men is quite capable, even with spears, of killing a lion. And vice versa, a single lion, well, a group of lions much easier to catch, very easily can catch a single person as opposed to a group of people. But during the day that during night that changes. Day is our time, nighttime is the time of the lions. So as soon as it becomes dark, we become part of their prey. So they move, and we try and move indoors into caves to get protection, whereas the lions rule the night. Oh, look there on the... Oh, it flew off. It's flying towards the line. It was Chandre's favourite, a butterfly, but it escaped. Looked like a little Shiraxes, but I landed on the bonnet and then took off towards the lioness. Still no movement from those cubs. So we were following a lioness. I think it was actually this lioness across quarantine last week, and she happened to spy one of the guys who's building our new final control, and he was wandering around where he shouldn't have been at that time of the day, and she immediately changed and went into stalk mode. And Angie is wondering about the rest of the story and what happened when it was off air. Not much. I think pretty much basically what happened while I was on air. I drove and put the vehicle between the lioness and the person, and then I shouted at her and went, "Hey!" and I tapped the side of the car a bit, bang, 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 just break her concentration, and then just kept my vehicle between her and the person until the person had got around the corner and into the staff village. Then left her, shouted at the person, and then went back and followed her to have a drink. And so, fortunately, the story could have gone a little bit worse, but she was quite full. If she'd been really hungry, it might have been a little bit more difficult to dissuade her from stalking that person. What have you seen, Chandra? Nothing.
An ear twitch.
An ear twitch, yes. Now, for those of you who watch lots of nature documentaries, and those wonderful cut together shots of cubs and playing and whatnot, this is how you get them. By sitting and waiting patiently next to a lion or leopard den. Sometimes you get lucky and the playing starts within 2 minutes of you arriving. 90% of the time it's like this, playing the patience game. I think what we might do is go for a little amble to the Buffalo's Hook waterhole and then come back in 5 or 10 minutes. And maybe something will have changed then. But I don't see it moving in the next 30 seconds. But there's always a very strong chance that we will not get to see them playing this evening, because when it gets a little bit later, we immediately zone this area. There's no after dark activities or spotlights or lights. Even before the sun goes completely down, we'll zone this area. Now, you can see there's a bit of work happening at Gari Dam, where the Djuma pan cam is, and Johanna's wondering what's going on there. They are deepening and bolstering the wall in case of La Nina at the end of this year, and they're also bolstering the wall of the little Djuma pan. The elephants and buffalo keep breaking it down, and the water, the precious water, keeps disappearing. Now this is the area where we had a very brief sighting of a honey badger this morning scuttling along. So who knows, maybe they'll be out and about again this evening. Now we are going to have to go under the leaning. It's probably just here, the lion tracks on the road here. They weren't here this morning. Ah, yeah, see, there they were, straight in towards the den. Here we have the leaning terminalia of Buffelshoek East. I just have to slow down so Jean-Ray can lower the antenna. We're good? There we go. Okay, so we're going to keep checking. While we do that, let's go across and see how Jamie's tracking is going.
While Brent heads and checks out Buffelshoek Dam area, the trail for Shadow is hotting up, and something scared a group of kudu in this block where her tracks lead into. They were giving off those deep booming bah sounds that are so typical of kudu alarm call. The difficulty is I don't know whether she's moving this way or that way. I'm desperately trying to split myself in two to try and work out where she's going to go. Our biggest risk is that she's going to cross Triple M without us finding her, because that's where those tracks will disappear. Now let us go and double check she's not on her way here. And then unfortunately at some point we are going to have to return to camp, because poor Gert's earpiece has stopped working completely, so he has no idea when we're live and when we're not, and I actually forgot to tell him that we were about to go live. Alright everybody, eyes peeled. Kudu tend to be very, very reliable in terms of their alarm calls. They are so good at spotting things. They very seldom give a false alarm. And the reason that their bark is so deep is because a deep sound travels further through the bush. So long sound waves essentially travel further than short sound waves. Now that deep barking sound, the loudest alarm call, the loudest vocalization of any antelope that we get out here. And they were trying to tell us that there's a leopard somewhere here. I think. Might have been a lion. You never know. Generally, a kudu don't alarm call for anything else, really, unless it's a cheetah, which is possible, but quite unlikely. Shadow, we know you're here somewhere. They were just a little bit in here, looking. I couldn't actually see them properly. And hello to Iodine in Illinois. Iodine wants to know what would happen to Shadow and her cub if they encountered Karula. What would Karula do? Oh goodness, here comes the dust cloud. Oh well, gives us an opportunity to sit and wait to see if Shadow's coming this way. So Iodine, it's a weird thing. It's very unpredictable with leopard behavior, particularly mother and daughter. So there have been recorded cases of mother and daughter sharing a kill, and there's even been a very unusual case. winter is dusty. Very, very unusual case where a grandmother ended up sharing a kill with her daughter and her daughter's cubs and adopting her daughter's cubs. Now that's a very, very unusual situation. Nobody really knows why that would occur. That being said, we don't know really what would happen. They'd probably, most likely, there'd be a bit of growling, a bit of posturing, the little cub would run away, and they would probably have moved apart into different directions. I'm just listening. I'm sure she's there. This is so frustrating. I'm sure she is somewhere in this region. Kudu don't alarm call for nothing. Okay, no sign of her here. Perhaps let us go and check further to the north. We've checked west. She's probably moving, given that the kudu were alarm calling, or it's just started alarm calling. So let's go and try and check elsewhere. I'm desperately attempting to recruit people to help me search, but everybody's on opposite ends of the reserve. This is very sad. Ooh. Try not to throw poor Gert off the other end. Okay. And I'm sure she's being pushed by the elephants. That's why she's moving. Okay, one last solid good check behind me. And that she's not coming through here. And then let us go a little bit further in. Oh, when one hears alarm calls like that, it gets very frustrating when you don't know exactly what it is they're alarm calling at. Let us go and see. I'm sure it's her. Now, unfortunately, poor Gert is going to have to live without radio comms for now. His poor defeated earpiece dangling from my fingertips, because if we leave now, we might miss an opportunity of finding her, which I don't want to risk. So poor Gert's just going to have to do it. You think you can manage, Gert?
I will.
Okay. He says he'll manage. Balanites tree. Or the Gowrie repeater. Let's go check the Gowrie repeater. Eugene would be proud. Okay, everybody, keep your eyes peeled. The interesting thing is that there's a herd of impala just here, and they have not alarm called at all. Well, there was an impala alarm call. Try that again. There was an impala herd somewhere here, and they've been completely silent. It's the kudu that have been unhappy. The impala are looking at us. They're not looking at a leopard. So she must, the impala, the kudu alarm calls came from further in, which means that, which does mean that she must be further into the block. Hello, Impalala. Have you seen a leopard by any chance? They look okay, a bit bunched together. They're not feeding. But that might just be because that ram has caused them a little bit of concern. No, they seem fine. They're not even staring off into the same direction. Okay, let's go check Gowrie repeater. Hey, everybody, keep your eyes peeled. Chelsea, are you looking hard? I've got Chelsea on the back, by the way. And she's going to help us keep track. And while I look for footprints crossing this road, don't think she would have crossed yet, though. Oh, this is such a tricky spot, and it's one of Shadow's all-time favorites to disappear off in here. Is there a chance that the kudu were alarm calling at the impala, perhaps? I don't think so. As I said, they're usually quite reliable, but you never know. They might be getting confused. I'm going to keep checking, make sure that she hasn't popped out here, and while we do, and then decide what to do about poor Gert's earpiece, let's go across to Brent, who has made it to Buffelshoek Dam.
So you can see how the drought is taking grip of the Buffelshoek waterhole, and it's mostly mud now, and unfortunately for Bachelor Bob, it's the only water he can access. So the other deeper water holes will be full of big nasty male hippos that won't let him anywhere near the ladies. And of course Bachelor Bob is not the only one who's going to suffer as this water dries up. Oh, what have you spotted? Oh, he's just got some mud on his top of his head. Nice reflection there as well. And if we come out onto the mud over there, there's another critter that's going to be looking for a new home in a couple of weeks. It's a little hinge-back terrapin who's basking in the sun at the moment. But they are going to have to move from what water that is left here. Now they all walk happily all the way to sort of the Djuma pan, and I think you might find that pan quite full of other terrapins as well. And flying around, there we go. Whoa, nice, Jean-Andre. Here's a blacksmith lapwing. We heard that tink tink. There it is. That's where it gets its name from. Sounds like a blacksmith hammering steel on his anvil. And we'll also have to find another spot that's got some water for them to hang around. Fortunately, they're not as dependent on the water as some of the other species that are here at the Buffelshoek waterhole at the moment. And some other birds also utilizing at the moment, who are also going to have to move. Now, our dry seasons out here are always dry, and Eric in Rio is wondering, is this a normal dry season or not? No, Eric, this is much drier than it normally would be at this time of the year, and there's barely a blade of grass, and there's been almost no rain throughout the rainy season. So that's, what have you spotted, Jean-Andre?
No grass.
Oh, no grass. Jean-Andre is showing you that there's no grass. But speaking of birds, it sounds like there's a really nice little bird party behind us. I'm just going to try and move. I can hear at least 4 or 5 different species, and I'm really hoping one of them could be a new one for our birders out there. So we're going to fall off the back of the damn wall. Whoa! Maybe not literally go that far. So, nice thing is, yeah, we're almost in the canopy. So let me see if we can spot them. I heard them behind me. Okay, I'm just trying to spot them. I can hear them. Psh, psh. I think let's have a look a bit further forward. Might be a little bit deep into this little river system now. We can see it quite clearly now. So this is now further down from where that lioness is, and you can see it's become a bit bigger. There's that lovely river sand at the bottom. And that little bird party sounds like it's a little bit too far down this little river system. Okay. Going to wander on a little bit more. before making our way back to the lioness. Let's see what else is out and about in the northeastern corner of Djuma. Now, the wonderful thing about being out in a live safari is we literally cannot plan what is around the next corner. And around the next corner shall be, Gendre. You smelt a lion. You smelt a lion poo. No, there's quite a lot of it around here, Gendre. Okay. What is around the next corner? Here's your corner, Gendre. Here's your opportunity. Here's your moment to shine. Elephant dung. Yes, no, there's a lot of that as well. Okay, so we're going to stop asking Gendre. Well, I was hoping we might find some of the depositors of all the elephant dung around here. I was actually hoping some might move towards that waterhole. So we're going to do another big loop and then head back, have one last look at the lioness. If there hasn't been any movement and the cubs are still in that thicket, we're going to leave the area. Try again in the morning. Gendre, wasn't this termite mound that we sat upon and got elephants right up next to us? I think it was. See, this big termite mound, Gendre and I were in bushwalk. The grass was much higher, giving us a bit more cover. And we sat up there, and the elephants literally walked about 5 meters from us while we were sitting on top of that big termite mound. That was a very pleasant morning, wasn't it? Red Dog has got another question about elephants and is wondering, do the bulls communicate as much as the females? I'd probably say they communicate a bit less to sort out, but they do definitely communicate quite a lot. But I would say just because of the dynamic that happens in a breeding herd, there probably has to be more communication by the females. Now, I actually don't think I've driven on this road since I've been back from leave, so good to catch up, see if there's anything new happening in the area. So far, no signs of anything. Hi, Mia. Mia says, come on, Brent, find a porcupine, pangolin, and nightfog, please. I'll definitely try my best, Mia. And unfortunately, all three of those species, this is probably about the worst time of the day to look for them. So maybe as it gets a little bit darker, we might have a little bit of luck in that department. I'm really surprised there's not more sign of elephant at the moment. Look at that. There we go. Yellow-billed hornbill. They actually have very, very robust beaks. but they are able to be quite delicate with them. Can you hear the little tuk 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 tuk? Oh, off it goes. Oh. Anyway, nice view of the yellow-billed hornbill. It seems like even the birds are on strike this evening. But that's how it goes in the bush. Sometimes there's just stuff happening everywhere. Other times you've got to work a little bit hard, and that's what makes it fun. Sorry guys, just got to be on the radio. All covered. Oh, come on, there were so many lion tracks all over Djuma. I wonder where the rest of them are. Standing by, Orbs. Some male waterbuck. Yeah, a fluffy antelope. Two young bulls. Now, waterbuck are one of our biggest antelope, and you can see the very distinctive white ring around their bottom. Makes them look like they've sat on a freshly painted toilet seat. Of course they haven't. It is a following mechanism, so they're able to follow each other through the bush. Now, Kathy's wondering, how do antelope out in Africa's sizes compare to deer and moose? Now, unfortunately for me, I don't really know that much about. I know red deer. Which a red deer, I think, is about very similar size to a waterbuck or a kudu in weight. Now a moose is probably the same size as the buffalo, is the best way I could say, and an impala is about the same size as a white-tailed deer. So I think red deer and elk are similar sized. So a big male waterbuck or a big male kudu a similar size to an elk or a red deer, but a moose probably the size of a buffalo. I think moose can get probably 700-800 kilograms in weight, and that is about the same size as our buffalo. But we're going to leave the little waterbucks as they meander off. We're going to do the same, keep checking through this area. Hi Monique! Monique says, how about finding us a snake? Apparently today is World Snake Day. I didn't know that, Monique. I'll have to post a picture of a snake for World Snake Day when I get home. I'll try my best, but again, also this time of the year, not the most ideal time to be looking for snakes. Most of them are hibernating to a degree in this cold winter weather. We might get lucky, you never know. Well, it seems like they've fixed Carrot's earpiece, so let's go see what they're up to. I'm sure they're going to be hot on the heels of Shadow.
We have indeed, and I have marvelous news. Not only does Gat now have communications with the outside world, aka Jerry, who is talking in our ears, but we are heading straight back to where we heard those alarm calls. Even better news, Herbert is going to be with us. So Herbert is racing along behind us. I hope not eating my dust. I didn't actually ask him which way he was planning on going. He is convinced that she has made a kill in there. Absolutely convinced. In fact, I just met him now outside the gate. It's like I told you, Jamie. I promise you she's got a kill in there. I'm going to take Herbert at his word because Herbert is a tracking legend, and we're going straight back to go and find this cat. So fingers crossed, everybody. We had such an incredible sighting with Shadow the last time I saw her. We had a sighting with her and her cub. And her cub is only 4 months old at this point. Too cute. And she'd caught a monkey. And the little cub was dragging the monkey around and chewing on it, and even went so far as to hiss at Mom when Mom tried to go and eat some of the food that she'd caught. An incredible sighting. So bear with me, everybody. We're going to go quite quickly. And we're not going to stop at the moment for most of the stuff we see, unless it's something extraordinary, or if it is a sneak for Monique. A snake for Monique in London, since it is World Snake Day. I've been doing that all day. I don't know. There's a problem with my speech patterns. You should have heard me this morning trying to say Cheetah planes pan. Cheetah pans plane. Yeah, okay. Let's move on. Let's go find Shadow. Okay. Such a pity. This is such a pity. This is such a tricky block. This is ridiculous. Okay. Now, let me try and get my words straight. Michelle, good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari. I'm afraid we don't have any updates on any of the other leopards. I know you are particularly speaking about Mvula. Last we heard, he was reunited once again with Shaluva, whether he wanted to be or not, I imagine. That's how I imagined it worked. So for those of you who've missed it, Mvula, a big male leopard who used to be dominant in this area, has almost reached the stage where he basically has reached the stage where he's not been really holding territory. He's been pushed out of his territorial area. And he was mating with Shaluva. We then heard a report that he got into a fight with a male leopard called Djuma. He ran off, so did she, and they were then seen mating again last night in Buffelshoek, the property to the north of our boundary. Now, chances are that scrap was, well, it would have been a serious scrap by leopard standards, but it would have been very short-lived. They probably would have tangled for a little bit and then moved off, which is what they did by all accounts. So Mvula, I'm sure, is fine. He might have got a few knocks, he might be a bit scratched, but otherwise he seems to be happy and healthy. The reason I say that I don't think he had much choice in his reunion with Shaluva is that, as we've seen before, a female leopard in estrus, or in heat, can be quite a force to be reckoned with. They can be quite tricky to shake. Now, he may not have wanted to be mating with her. There's a great deal of noise, and he probably wouldn't have wanted to attract Djuma's attention once again. But I have a suspicion, this is pure supposition, but I have a suspicion she probably followed him. And the instinct to mate, obviously, once presented with a female in estrus, is relatively irresistible. But we did hear we think Djuma, territorial calling up in Buffelshoek last night when we went to bed. Okay. Looking for a dust cloud that might mean Herbert is on his way behind us. Let us just check really carefully around the Balanites tree. This enormous torchwood that is one of the boundaries of Shadow's area. It's a beautiful tree. Stop here and just listen for a second. One day I'm going to come around this corner and there will be a leopard in this tree. I really feel like that is going to be the case. I always say that though every time I come past, and there never is. There is a squirrel though. I had a sudden surprise. I thought that perhaps there was a leopard moving, but it's not, it's a squirrel. And he's disappeared as well, unfortunately. Right, Shadow, where are you? Oh, it's gone so quiet. Okay. Let's just check really carefully along this road. I'm with you, Paul. Hopefully with Herbert on the trail, we will have a leopard sighting shortly. We'll keep our fingers crossed that he can come and give us a hand. It definitely helps having two of us because it means that we can make sure that we don't miss her coming out somewhere odd. Okay. Check along here. I just wonder whether the elephants didn't chase her a little bit to the north. Okay. We're quite far away from where those alarm calls happen. I'm going to do a big loop and then go back to that region. Because there's one other possibility, and one is that it's something that Herbert suggested to me. There's a possibility that she actually stashed her cub, as leopards do when their cubs are, well, throughout their cubs' lives, but especially when their cubs are as young as Shadow's cub is. And they stash them away and they go off hunting. And there is a chance, there is a possibility that she's made a kill and she's going back to fetch her cubs. Because generally, when a leopard is feeding, they have a tendency to drag their kill under a thick tree or a bush or somewhere well hidden if they can't put it up into a tree. And as a result, they don't actually get seen by the other animals of the area. So you don't often get the alarm calls responding to them unless they're moving. I want to know why Shadow was moving, where she might be going, and why on earth we haven't managed to spot her yet. I'm going to have to try and see. I think Herbert might have got distracted. He does have guests with him, so he's not 100% devoted to us. Not that that's a bad thing. Herbert is marvelous at all things. There's some very gentle squeaking coming from Wendy. Now, of course, Shadow has become one of the most famous leopards in the world, and that is in part due to the situation that arose with her older cub, Sindile. Now, Sindile was the one that caught the dog that proved to have rabies, put into quarantine and then released not too long ago. And there was a very dramatic sighting with Sindile, Shadow, and Shadow's new little cub that played out in front of an audience of thousands not too long ago, and it had a very happy ending in that the cub proved to be absolutely fine, Shadow's younger cub, even though Sindile potentially was a threat to it. Now, yes, absolutely, Michael, Sindile is the only cub that Shadow has raised to adulthood, to independence. There's a lot of conjecture about what it is, because Shadow is Karula's oldest daughter. She's nearly 10 years old. She has never raised a successful litter apart from one cub, and yet her mother, Karula, in exactly the same area, has raised, in no particular order, Shadow and Tandi, Shimbambalana and Shinvinzi, Mishun and Duna, Quarantine and Kunyuma, and now she's got another set that she is looking after very well. And there's a lot of conjecture about whether or not Shadow is in fact a bad mother. I struggle with that. I'm not sure it's that easy to label a leopardess bad, although a very convincing argument that was put to me was that surely animals have skills just like human beings have skills and talents, and perhaps mothering is one of Karula's. Certainly, Karula is an exception to a statistically very, very high mortality rate for cubs. I don't know, the one thing that Shadow really doesn't do well is she doesn't hoist her kills. She doesn't drag her kills up into a tree, and that in turn attracts the attentions of hyenas and automatically puts the cubs slightly more at risk. I don't know whether I would call Shadow a bad mother. An unlucky one, absolutely. She's been tremendously unfortunate in terms of her cub raising. But is there a reason why she doesn't hoist her kills as much as Karula? And is it possible that hyenas have learnt which leopard they might have a better success rate in terms of scavenging from? We know that hyenas can and do follow leopards around occasionally, even adult leopards, just out of curiosity to go and see if they have got a kill. Is it possible that hyenas could learn certain individuals are not as good at hiding their food away as others? I don't know. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but hyena are very, very clever animals. Come on, Shadow. It's so quiet out here. It's too quiet. There's not an impala. No warthog. There is everything. And we have as always, we usually gather 1 or 2 new viewers every single drive, and it is our pleasure this afternoon to welcome Emma Thompson, who is watching our show live. Emma Thompson, it's wonderful to have you on board. I am assuming that you are probably not the great British actress Emma Thompson. Somehow I can't imagine that in taking time off writing screenplays and whatever else Emma Thompson does these days, but I could be wrong. Perhaps we have gathered the great Emma Thompson onto our viewing list. Not that you would be any less welcome if you are not, in fact, the great British actress Emma Thompson. And I really hope we manage to find this leopard for you. It will be a very, very pleasant afternoon if we do. So welcome to Emma Thompson. Don't forget, we are live twice a day, every day. 3 hours in our morning, 3 hours in our afternoon. And you are more than welcome to send through any questions that you have on the wildlife of South Africa. Please don't feel shy, and certainly don't feel as if the question you're asking is stupid. We do have viewers that have been watching for years and years, but as I said, we always have new viewers jumping on board as well. And sometimes we get a little bit sort of caught up in the excitement and we forget that there are newer viewers watching. And perhaps we don't explain ourselves as clearly, so please, Emma, shout if you want us to expand upon something more. I'm becoming very, very familiar with this patch of road now. I've driven it a lot in the last few hours. Right. So, Gert is going to give us a quick windscreen wipe. It is live, as you know, and we are in the middle of winter, which means dust has been piling upon us, especially while I raced back to camp. So the odd windscreen wipe is entirely forgivable, and I'm sure you'd entirely appreciate it. You should see what happens when it rains out here. Constant wiping of lenses. Now typically, with our beloved leopard cubs, because of the incredibly high mortality rate, we generally do not name them before they have reached a year old, because that's the point at which their survival chances steadily increase, or actually dramatically increase. However, we broke the rules with Karula's cubs for a couple of reasons. Most importantly was that we were concerned because the guides We didn't want them to get unofficial names that then became almost like official names, and to actually usurp the naming rights of the various guides in this area. So Karula's 5-month-old cubs got their names a little bit earlier than would be normal, and they were named Khosana and Shungile, which I think are really lovely names. I really enjoy those names. Deborah, who is our self-professed armchair traveller, as always a warm welcome to you. No word on the naming of Shadow's cub. The guides of the area, I think, agreed to naming them a little bit earlier, to naming Karula's cubs a little bit earlier, because she spends an enormous amount of time with us. I think they might have, well, I don't know. I mean, we didn't really ask them if we could name Shadow's cub earlier. We focused more on Karula's cubs, not for any major reason other than it's just simply that we don't see Shadow as often as we see Karula. So we haven't asked about naming them early. That's not to say that we won't, it's not to say that we will. But no, there is no update on the naming of Shadow's cub. James, of course, with his royalist leanings, having nicknamed Karula's cubs George and Charlotte, decided that Shadow's cub should be called Zara. Just in keeping with the theme, those of you who are British will understand. I have to confess, I quite like the name Zara, but I seriously doubt, please keep it as an unofficial name, because I seriously doubt that's one that's going to stick. We've got the kudu here, we've got some kudu here, and they now look perfectly relaxed with life. They were not here when we last drove this road. So I don't know if these are the individuals responsible for the deep and booming bark that we heard earlier, that alarm call. They don't even seem to be glancing in any particular direction. I wonder. There's a whole load of them in here. As always with kudu, the more you look at, the more you see. Definitely one of our most graceful antelope, and they have a distinct advantage over the impala of this area in that they are much, much higher. So they can actually see over the strychnos. Hello, girls. I bet you know exactly where the leopard is. Hello, beautiful. Have you seen a leopard? I think you have seen a leopard. I wish you could tell us where she might be, though. They definitely don't look unsettled in any way. While we look at them in their favourite habitat, the white stripes, as always, jump out at the eye. And this morning we spoke about the blue wildebeest and the fact that they have darker stripes. And in both cases it's thought that the stripes act to break up the outline of the animal concerned. And as always, welcome to James Richards. And no, I have absolutely no idea what factors might have favoured the evolution of white stripes on kudu over wildebeest dark stripes. Except you might be right, it might be habitat preference. Certainly the wildebeest have the females have horns because they live, or there's a strong correlation with that fact and the fact that they live in more open areas, as opposed to our kudu where the females don't have horns and live in much more densely vegetated areas. That could well be a factor. There might be a bit of chance as well. I'm not 100% sure, and I honestly don't know the answer to that. Let me go back a little bit. Now, I'm just going to go back one more time. I want to see if they're glancing back in a direction at all. Excuse me, girl. Have you by any chance seen the leopard? There's also a herd of impala. They look perfectly relaxed. Which doesn't really mean that she isn't here. It just means that they are no longer concerned about the presence of a leopard. I'm going to loop around, go back to where we heard the kudu alarm calling, because they weren't alarm calling from here. I was here when I heard them. I'm going to go see whether or not a shadow has popped out. In the meantime, let's head across to Brent for an update.
We just stopped for a quick listen around the southern edge of our traverse, and I was hoping we might hear a kudu alarming and whatnot. Jamie's off in the west looking for shadow and cub. We went back past that lioness, and there was no movement there, and the other vehicles were wanting to get in there, so we left. So I just think oh, it's a hyena track. That's been half driven over. So I did get an update today from the guys in the Manuletti. So just near the gate, just beyond Sydney's dam, it seems that is where the hyena den is at the moment. So in the Manuletti, just outside of the Sabi Sands. Of course, they'll still range into the Sabi Sands while foraging, but hopefully they'll move back to the Djuma dens soon. Now we might head across to Arathusa. I was on my way to go try see what the dam was looking like when we were lucky enough to hear those impala and monkeys alarm calling on yesterday's sunset safari and find Salahesh. And now, for those who are not sure, Salahesh is a female leopard who's traditionally been further to the west and south of our traverse area, but now that her cub has become independent, she seems to be moving into Shadow's territory. Have a quick look here. This is a favourite spot of Karula's to cross. Unfortunately, no tracks. Well, lots of tracks, just no leopard tracks. Oh! Change of plans. I copy, thanks Andrew. Yeah, I'm on Gary Main Junction, Cheetah Cut Line. I'd also like to make my way. Okay, so I just got a report from the east, and I was umming and ahhing with Jean-Ray whether we should head east. Our decision has now been made for us, and I'm not going to tell you what's there. So you're going to have to guess or hope or pray it's what you want to see on our way, as we make our way towards Cheetah Plains. And while we do that, we're going to have to go through a few little deep drainage lines where we don't have signal. So while we shoot to the east, let's go back and see how Jamie's hunt for the elusive shadow is going.
Hello everybody, just bear with me 1 second. I just want to have a quick chat with yours and his guests, and I'll be with you in 2 moments. Those alarm calls are coming from here somewhere. Herbert is convinced she's got a kill.
I'm quickly going to Cheetah Plains, so pick up Valentina to another plane.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
I'm going to drive all the way there.
Cool, enjoy. I'll let you know if we have any luck here. Okay, cheers guys. Okay, on we go. Sorry about that everybody. While Brent races across to the surprise, which I'm not sure if you heard that, but I think we might have an idea about what the surprise may be, unfortunately. I think the cat might have just gone out of the bag quite literally at that point. Okay. So yours came from that direction, clearly, judging by his tire tracks. One more loop, and then we'll expand the search, we'll move on, and we will try and find you other wonderful things to look at. I'm just very, very reluctant to give up right this second on a potential shadow sighting. And Charlotte in Port Elizabeth and Kathy in Tennessee have come to the same conclusion. It's something I suggested in a fireside chat, and I got some odd looks when I did. But I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. Just chatting a bit about our wonderful shadow's lack of hoisting ability. This is where I heard the alarm calls, by the way, so I'm concentrating really hard, making sure that she hasn't popped out somewhere here. Now, their suggestion was my suggestion, which might be that she has some kind of physical disability that would prevent her from hoisting large kills. Perhaps I really genuinely feel that's a possibility. I don't think it's that she doesn't know how to, because she's hoisted smaller things like Dakers or Steenbocks. Maybe she's just weaker than Karula. That's a possibility. Maybe she suffered some kind of injury. Perhaps an injury to her jaw that would make it difficult for her to pull something heavy into a tree. I don't know. The one thing I will say, though, is that Tundi hasn't really had much in the way of success either. She's also, as far as I know, she's also only raised one cub to independence. Maybe two. There's some debate about that. Hey, look, it's our Impala. Hello, guys. You don't look any more concerned than when we last looked at you. Well, not unfortunately, it's not that I wish terror upon them, but they might have been able to give us a clue as to where a shadow might be. I don't know that it's outside of the realm of possibility that Shadow has an injury or some kind of disability. It's possible. Might just be that she is just weaker. She just doesn't have the physical strength. We may never know.